Hey Bookworms, welcome back to my channel and welcome generally if that's your first time here. Before I start this video, I just wanted to let you know that I am getting over a cold, so if my voice sounds strange, that is stranger than usual, you at least know why. I hope that at least you'll be able to understand what I'm saying, that's the important thing here. So today I will be talking about The Magicians by Lev Grossman, which is a modern day fantasy book. It's about a young boy called Quentin who is 17 years old, who one day, out of the blue, finds out that not only that magic exists, but he's also been accepted to a school of magic. Now, before I get to the actual review, I would like to answer a question that I'm sure you're asking, and no, this book isn't a Harry Potter ripoff. I don't know, maybe the author was inspired by Harry Potter, but the two books are very, very different. The way magic is portrayed and done, and the world of magic is very different between the two books. The characters are very different, the direction that the plot is going is very different, and unfortunately also the quality of writing is very, very different. I mean, love or hate Harry Potter, but you have to admit that for a first-time author, J.K. Rowling has proven to have a very good talent for writing full interesting worlds, compelling characters, suspenseful plot. All of these things and more are lacking in The Magicians. Yes, I did not like this book. This is an understatement. I was very disappointed. I thought it was just a bad book. But before I get in more depth into why I didn't like it, I do want to point out a few positive things about this book. First of all, I do think that the main problem is writing and editing and not so much as the idea. I think that the world in which this book takes place in has a lot of potential. I do like the fact that magic is portrayed as something very meticulous and like studying math. It's very complex, not so intuitive, very precise. I don't know, I thought it was interesting. I also really like the fact that Quentin, the protagonist, is not some sort of a superhero. He is not the chosen one. He's not all that special. I mean, he does have magic powers, but after a very short while in this book, we get to the actual magic school bit where everybody has magic powers, and among them, Quentin has nothing special. There are certain things that he finds out that he's really good at, but other things that he is not good at all, and other characters are much better at. I found this approach very refreshing and I really like that. Unfortunately, what happens with the rest of the book and especially with Quentin's character was very disappointing, so this aspect wasn't really explored. And that's it for the good things about this book. Now let's start a rant. I will try not to make it an actual rant, but I know myself about everything that I didn't like in this book. So the list is very long and I will not talk in depth about everything. And to make things a little more concise and for them to make sense, I decided to kind of group them in categories. The first category is grammar. I honestly think no one actually edited this book. I would add or omit a comma or a definite article here and there, rewrite the sentences to make them a little more readable. There are tons of garden paths in this book. A garden path is when you read a sentence and you connect the words in a certain way, but then when you reach the end of the sentence, you realize it doesn't really make sense and you have to go back and reread the sentence, reconnect the word to one another in a different way so it will make sense. Now, when it's done on purpose, it can be really cool. But in here, not only that it's not done on purpose, it's also all over the book and it makes it really annoying to read. Also, I had a feeling that the author kept replacing normal words that one would use in that sort of context with other words that I assume he put there because they sound more sophisticated, but it didn't look sophisticated. It looked weird. It looked sometimes even made up, as if he just made up a word in order to sound more sophisticated. The second category has to do with time, progress, build-up, all of these things that are really crucial to a good plot, whether it's a book or a movie. You know, when you mention something at the beginning or at some point at the book in order for it to have a bigger impact somewhere else along the book, or building up thing that's starting small and then they build up until they explode in one way or another toward the ending of this book. This book has none of it. No character development, no plot development. Again, a little more detail. Do you know the saying about the gun that appears in the first act and then shoots in the third act? Well, in this book, the gun will appear only in the third act when it shoots. That will be the first time that you even know that the gun exists. And that's not a good build-up. That's actually no build-up at all. Like, there was one time where a new character appears and he's not relevant to the plot at all, but that's a different kind of problem that I will get to. But a character says to another, "Oh, you know who that is? That's the son of that guy." And the other character says, "Oh yeah, I was wondering what happened to him." "Oh really? I could have wondered too. Unfortunately, I had no idea this person exists." I mean, how hard could it have been to just see the scene and realize we never heard of this character before and say, maybe I'll better go back and somewhere in this book previous to this scene, I will put a sentence where a character would mention that there was another character and he had a son and nobody knew what happened to him. That will have a better impact. And this happens all over the book. That's why I think that no one actually edited this book and that the main problems had to do with the writing and the editing. You get zero progress. And since I mentioned that there is a character who is completely irrelevant to the rest of the plot, let's go into that a little bit. Usually in a good plot structure, you'll have the protagonist or a group of protagonists, and they will have some sort of a goal or a mission. Whether it is to find a treasure or to find a killer or even to find true love. But there's a certain aim that these people are aiming to, a goal that they want to achieve. And in this book, I kept reading about events and events as if the author had no idea where he wants to go. And then this happened and then this happened. And I kept reading and thinking, okay, that will be the point where the plot actually starts. You know, due to that event, this will start setting things in motion and the plot will actually begin, but it never happens. Toward the middle of the book, I said, hold on a moment. I have no idea what the goal is. I have no idea who the antagonist is. There is no villain to this book. Only a little after the midpoint of the book, the goal actually comes to life and we realize that the character has a certain mission. But this mission isn't even very good. It's so banal and random, like one of those platform computer games where you are a character and you just walk, and whenever there's, I don't know, a coin, you pick it up, and whenever a bad guy comes, you fight him, but you don't even know why you're fighting this bad guy. The villain only shows up at the very end of the book, and it's not like we have the idea of a villain, but we don't know who that is. Like, we know that Jack the Ripper is the murderer, but we don't know who Jack the Ripper is. We have even no concept of who the bad guy is. The plot just keeps going and going until they say, okay, let's do that. Why? I don't know, they just do. Now, I will point out that the author was in a bit of a problem because it was important to start the book where it starts, and a long time should have passed between the starting point and until the mission could have started, but all the time between could have been spent a lot better and in a much more concise way, or in the way that it will actually build up to this mission. Okay, so this book has no actual good structure, nor good mission or quest. At least the characters are okay, right? I mean, I did mention that I really like the fact that Quentin is like a regular guy and not some sort of a chosen one. Unfortunately, the characters are also crap. Like in other aspects of this book, there is zero character development, especially when it comes to Quentin. The other characters are also either not interesting or stereotypical or just assholes, each one of them in a different kind of way of being an asshole, so that at least that's interesting. It's kind of ironic how Quentin would mention how much he have grown and changed from the time where he just started at the magic school, but that just didn't happen. He didn't grow up as a person. He didn't learn anything new. He just became more and more of an asshole. And probably the biggest antagonistic protagonist that I've ever read, including Colton Holdfield from The Catcher in the Rye. The author did try to make a point here about how miserable magicians' lives are, because you just solve all your problems with magic and you don't actually deal with things and you end up being miserable. But oh my god, that's like the worst case of first world problems ever. I mean, I get what he was trying to say, but the way the characters are acting, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that really, really rich kid who drove recklessly and killed another person, but later in court pleaded that it was not his fault, that was the situation of his life and the way that he was raised, that he was so privileged that he didn't realize that his actions have consequences, and you know, other people are alive as well and you shouldn't kill them. Anyone felt pity of this boy or, you know, understood him? No. The same goes to Quentin, who started out as a character that you might relate to, but later on become such an antagonistic character and just a terrible, terrible person that doesn't grow and doesn't realize that his actions have consequences. There was another point that I wanted to make and I wasn't sure if I'm going to make it, so I'm going to say it. There is a point in this book where Quentin does something absolutely terrible and he blames the entire world instead of taking responsibility of his actions. Not somebody else's action, his actions. He blames his victim. He blames the state of mind that he was in. He blames the person who allegedly seduced him to do said thing, even though that person didn't actually seduce him, but merely pointed out the fact that this thing would be possible. It was all Quentin, and the way it was written, it seemed as if it was Quentin's idea to begin with. He even blames a person who comes later and distracts him. And he said if he would have come earlier, he would have distracted him earlier, and then he wouldn't have done this terrible thing. I mean, yeah, that's some real character development there. And so many bad things happen because of this terrible thing. It has consequences. And it's okay for your characters to do bad things if they learn from their mistakes. Unfortunately, I didn't get the feeling that Quentin actually learned something. It always seemed as if he kind of realizes that it was bad, but not really like, why was it bad? And he didn't even try to make it right. He didn't try to talk to his victim or apologize or set things right. No, he just blamed everybody. I don't think that was the point of the story. So I think I will leave it at that. Otherwise, I will be here for like 2 hours talking about all the bad things about this book, but I think I said enough. I don't think it was a good book. I don't think it was written well. I think that the idea in the hand of a more capable author could have been better. This is the first book of a series. I'm not gonna read the rest of it. There is a TV show. I will maybe, when I have time, look in the internet. If I can find it on Netflix or something, maybe I will give it a chance, but I will not spend money on watching it. I don't recommend this book, and yeah, enough said, right? And that's it for this review. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to click like and to subscribe to my channel. And if you have read The Magicians, please comment down below and tell me if you like it, if you didn't like it. Do you agree with me? Do you see things completely different? I would like to know your opinion. And I have another question for you. Write down in the comment section the most antagonistic protagonist you've read in a book, but not one that you're supposed to hate. Characters that you're supposed to identify with or like or even feel sorry for, but you couldn't stand. Write down in the comments section and I would like to know what you thought. And that's it, guys. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time where I'll be talking about one of the books that I mentioned in my previous haul. If you haven't watched it, the link is down below. Go ahead and check it out. And until next time, bye-bye.